Hello, everyone. My name is Judd Marcello, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of FARI. FARI is a distribution logistics last mile leader, global presence, helping companies deliver all of their packages to all of their consumers, helping companies create efficiencies in their delivery logistics. And this is Special Delivery with FARI. Special Delivery is a monthly show last Thursday of every month where we come to you and talk about trends in delivery logistics. We talk about what's happening with supply chain. We talk about global economies. We talk about how most all of you right now are preparing for a busy holiday season and how you're thinking about getting your packages to your consumers, how you're getting them what they ordered, getting it there on time, getting it there accurate, getting there every time. Okay, we have a big show for you today. We're going to run through a couple headlines here where we're looking at some of the trends, some of the discussion points around what's happening in certain parts of the world with e-commerce and retail. And then we have a very special guest. And I want to make sure we have enough time for Gerard from QuadX. He's going to talk about what's happening in the Philippines with e-commerce, social commerce. Man, there is massive opportunity there, and you're going to hear all about it. And then we're going to end the show on the last word in last mile. Okay. All right, let's get right into it. I want to talk about a headline, something that I pulled out of the Wall Street Journal today, and it is in reference to a company called Meesho. Okay, Meesho is an India-based company, and they deal with e-commerce, more so social commerce. Fascinating article here, largely because Meesho itself is they're sitting in one of the world's biggest populations, and their app is helping customers connect with each other, helping retailers connect with each other, and helping each other sell products to those that need them. Meesho, they're also just attracting a lot of attention from investors. They already have about $1.1 billion of investment from companies like Meta Platforms, Sequoia, and SoftBank. So, there's a lot of big investors out there seeing this as a massive opportunity, and they want to kind of get in on this and help Meesho connect with this very large India population, right? Helping companies execute on commerce. What Meesho does is really interesting. They have an app, okay? And their app, and I was checking this out, their app is the world's most downloaded app in the first half of 2022. Remember, this is a commerce company, right? They're helping brand sell, they're helping connect consumers to each other to help each other sell and giving them a piece of the pie. World's most downloaded app in the first half of this year. That's amazing. And what they do within the app is they offer just a wide variety of products, and they think about these products. They call them simple goods, and these are the goods that kind of like what you need on a daily basis. We're not talking about large big screen TVs and very expensive purchases. This is the stuff you need on a regular basis. And they think there's a real untapped market here. And what they think is like 85% of the India market from an e-commerce perspective is interested in these simple goods, and they're trying to capitalize on that part of the market. And the way that they're doing it, not only with their app, they're offering consumers the ability to share links to products and to be part of the social commerce aspect of e-commerce, allowing them to share in the distribution of products, and allowing them to share in the profitability that comes with selling products and being part of like a selling network within their own social network. Very interesting. And it's not just Meesho who's trying to capitalize on this. Companies like Flipkart and Amazon, they've also invested in the region. And what's really interesting here is like local first mover, really important. Outside of a specific region, if you have investors coming in, it's great. They usually have lots of money. Amazon is putting about $22 billion of investment into the region, but Meesho still has that first mover local advantage. Their app so far this year has been opened 1.4 billion times by its users. That's a lot of activity. There's a lot of commerce happening there. And I think it's really indicative of what's happening around the globe right now when it comes to e-commerce, social commerce, and brands looking to capitalize on the opportunity of this growth, connecting more people connecting more people with the products that they need to buy, using the population to help increase this coverage, to help increase distribution and awareness of these products. Social commerce is really, it has a penetration in a lot of established markets, like in the US, where I am today, but it's really the global opportunity in regions where there's dense population that isn't as advanced in terms of e-commerce channels, e-commerce capabilities, apps, and just normal things, quote unquote, normal things that you would think normal in some parts of the world. Having a credit card, being able to make online purchases isn't really a prevalent way to actually make purchases. And that's why I think our next guest is going to be so interesting today, and I think you're going to learn a lot from him. Gerard Payawan is the Chief Operating Officer of QuadX, and he's here today to talk to us about what's happening in Southeast Asia, what's happening specifically in the Philippines. Why is that part of the world considered to be such a growth market, and why are so many brands rushing to get in there and get a competitive advantage? We're going to talk a little bit about what are the e-commerce trends that we're seeing in the region, right? And again, social commerce and how these things are coming together, and how it's turning and how it's like propelling this entire growth opportunity in these growth markets. And more than anything, probably, what's the impact on the consumer? What's the impact on the consumer technology is having? And more so, like consumer behaviors. How are they impacting how some of these brands are responding to consumers, and why some of these big global brands are rushing to get in there and to stake their claim on what they're thinking is a massive opportunity for growth. Gerard, thank you for being here on Special Delivery. Really happy to have you. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about QuadX?
Hi, I'm Gerard Payawan from QuadX. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of QuadX, and while we are serving both social commerce, we are also serving the marketplace here in the Philippines.
Great, thank you. Look, in doing some research for this discussion, I came across some massive stats, and I think it's worth starting with those to set the context for why this is such a massive growth opportunity. Southeast Asia alone represents a quarter of the world's population. I did not know that. That is significant. That's a lot of consumers out there.
You're right, Judd. The top 5 countries alone, composed of Indonesia, that's 300 million in population. Philippines, number 2 in Southeast Asia with 110 million. Vietnam alone, 100 million. Thailand at 70 million. And Malaysia, 35 million. These top 5 countries contribute on the retail e-commerce alone, and has the highest growth in terms of e-commerce sales, with a minimum growth of 18%, while Philippines having a number one spot at 26%. I think we can attribute this as first is we are part of the emerging markets. No, we call that emerging markets because we have improved on our infrastructure. I think internet availability has prospered across our nations. We have mobile devices in mostly urban areas, and everyone has internet access. So I think that's a huge market in this eastern side of the world.
Yeah. So massive population density, internet tools, right? The prevalence of those, the availability, the use of those, whether that's high-speed internet or mobile access coming together, and then consumers wanting to be a big part of that, and to be able to, now that they kind of have those new tools, so to speak, they a willingness to use those in ways that they never have before. So it sounds like there's just a lot of different elements here converging to create a perfect opportunity for companies like yours to get in there and to capitalize on this, to serve consumers better, but also to look for ways to grow your business. One of the things that you said there I found really compelling was, so you said Philippines specifically, 100 million in population. Philippines alone, from an e-commerce perspective, is going to grow, expected to grow 26% this year. I think that's the largest expected growth in e-commerce in the globe this year from a region perspective. Give us an idea of what's happening in the Philippines right now from an e-commerce with e-commerce?
Well, number one, we have, I think, 88 million have their own mobile devices,
Hmm.
and 50% are in urban areas. And the age median is about 30 years. So everyone wants to use their mobile devices in shopping. And this pandemic alone
Hmm.
caused a massive shift in consumer behavior, where in where everyone were required to stay at home. So everyone has to shop through their phones. They were forced to buy it. They have all of the offerings. We have about 3 or 4 social platforms offering anything you need, and this has been required to be picked up and delivered to your doorstep. So, one, we are promoting safety during the pandemic while you are still enjoying all of the stuffs that's available out in the market.
So the pandemic, obviously massive impact. We're going to feel that the effects of that for years. But specifically, let's say in the Philippines, what I'm hearing is the pandemic just accelerated the evolution of online commerce, right?
Yes.
To the point where the phone became the primary channel for which how people had to shop and how they received goods and how they navigated the pandemic. So as I understand it though, credit cards are not a prevalent form of payment. There's not a lot of people have credit cards and be able to use those. I mean, when I think about online payments, my credit cards are stored in my app. Whoever I go and spend money with, they already know how I'm going to reimburse that or how I'm going to pay for these goods using my credit cards on file. How did the population how did they deal with the fact that they didn't have credit cards? How did retailers deal with the fact they didn't have credit cards? What's the cash situation? How do they do that?
Well, here in the Philippines, I think 20 to 40% only have their own bank accounts.
Wow.
So how do we purchase? We introduce here the cash on delivery. We introduce here secure trade. I mean, you can only pay when you get your stuff. So when sellers sell their goods, we will guarantee a secure trade. So wherein we pick up the goods, we guarantee it for them. Once we deliver it to our customers, we collect the cash, and the next day we deposit to their accounts.
Wow.
So that's how we define the delivery here for e-commerce, wherein we just have to make use of cash as a form of payment because they are afraid to use of the credit cards due to some frauds
Hmm.
that is happening for some of those with accounts.
Got it. So that feels like it creates a really unique and maybe even complicated delivery process, right? Because not only like in our world, getting deliveries on delivering goods on time, making sure they're accurate, et cetera, et cetera. That's table stakes. That's the expectation today. But when you have to factor in a security and trust factor into the delivery when it comes to the exchange of goods, like at the doorstep, getting cash, holding on to that cash. You almost have to think of, you're delivering goods, but then you have to accept cash and then you have to make sure you deliver that cash safely as well. I mean, it just sounds like there's a lot of complexity there. Like, how do you navigate that complexity? How do you deal with all that complexity?
Well, number one, we need the system for it to monitor everything. That's why the use of FarEye is a amazing tool for us, wherein we can track all those packages. At the same time, we track the amount that we collect, and then the deposit is just a tools in the banking system that we deposit right to their account. So what is important is we have the entire visibility from the movement of the goods and from the time it was picked up, sorted, up to the last mile, and even up to the return side. So just have to marry the data on the amount collected and the amount to be deposited.
Yeah. Again, like Deliveries are complicated enough, but just thinking about the cash component here. And would you say like this is, we at the beginning of our conversation here, you talked about a number of different regions and population density, Vietnam, et cetera, multiple countries. Is the reliance on cash as the primary form of payment standard in those regions as well?
Yes, I think it goes as well with Indonesia and Vietnam.
Mm. And so So that component there to me just sounds like there's a different, the thing I keep coming back to in my head is just that level of trust that you have to have. The trust that you have to establish, you, QuadX, as kind of like the intermediary here, and then also with the brand that's the sellers and then the buyers. It seems like a very different relationship purely based on that cash component. And long term, when we think about things like customer satisfaction, customer loyalty, building trust with the customer, these all again feel like table stakes today. This is what everybody talks about in a modern brand and consumer relationship. But for this part of the world, that cash component makes it seem like that is a much more prominent. It plays a much more prominent role. Let me ask you, from a delivery landscape point of view, how has this change in e-commerce impacted deliveries? Just like the nature of deliveries and what the expectations are from a brand or consumer.
Well, first, how do we redefine delivery? One, we need to show customer visibility. They want to. Everyone wants to know when the shipments will be picked up, when will it be sorted and transferred to the delivery hub, when will be the schedule of the delivery. Okay? They have to track the parcel from the seller all the way to their doorstep. And then the second is we need to prove the delivery happened. So a proof of delivery, whether it is a dispute from a customer side or for the seller side, we have to show that. And the third is once we collect the money, we have to also disburse to our sellers. So that's how we define delivery here in the Philippines.
And in that, what are you seeing? So in how that kind of redefinition, if you will, as you said, of deliveries in the region, what are some of the trends that you're seeing just from a business standpoint in terms of like the new needs that are created by the impact on e-commerce, or the verification of delivery, or the use of data? Like, what are some of the other trends that you're seeing, not just from you, but you're seeing around you in the industry, just like on delivery and what the new expectations are?
I think performance-wise, we are now being assessed in three areas. Number one is cost, okay, to be able to deliver economically. Okay. The second is reliability. This is once you commit, the seller commits a delivery within 2 days, you have to make it happen. And the third is time. You are being assessed on the speed of delivery. If you will be able to exceed expectations or deliver before the committed time of delivery. So those are the three components that if everything is equal in all of the players, you will be assessed on those three parts.
So thank you. So from a business standpoint, cost is obviously number one, creating efficient deliveries right now. And, there's global economy, what it is today, and the trends that we're seeing. I can imagine that, in a region where deliveries maybe weren't as prevalent as they are becoming now, that idea of bringing efficiency into the process early is extremely important because of the nature of cost savings. But at the same time, balancing the expectations of the consumer and making sure that you can get them what they need when they want it. So,
Correct.
do you find like that the cost piece is prominent in your conversations with your customers, and they're consistently looking for ways to reduce costs and coming to you to find those efficiencies?
Well, number one attraction on e-commerce is free delivery. So there's no free delivery, but we just have to lower the cost and market it that way. So it's just becoming. You have to become more efficient on your operations, as well as finding the most economical way to move things.
And from a and I'm sure there's a very competitive nature to executing that way, like not just competitive in in a local market perspective, but competition coming from outside the market. In previous conversations we've had, you've talked about how Walmart or Amazon, Alibaba, Flipkart, all coming into the region and trying to capitalize on the growth opportunity there. Can you give me an idea of like what's happening from a competitive standpoint? How are companies coming in? Are they using a lot of their kind of like global infrastructure and larger budgets and bigger impact to really put pressure on you in the market? And how do you combat that?
I think if I compare it with Alibaba, Alibaba has a advantage because they're bringing their goods from China, and it's much closer to the Southeast Asia market. So cross-border is being promoted, wherein you can order anything from China and be here in the area within less than 5 days. Okay, so that's a let's say another market for the countries that are having access to Alibaba sellers. Okay. While also the local players here, let's say the big retail, has to adapt as well on the e-commerce trend. They have to also put up their platform or join um, the 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 other platforms here to become also part of the marketplace, because you will have an access to about let's say in the Philippines alone about 50 million that have downloaded the app. So those are the markets wherein if you are just on a, let's say, one mall, shopping mall here, you will just have an access on your area. But if you are entered into the platform, you will have the access for the entire country. So I think that's the advantages on having on the e-commerce side. You don't maintain a warehouse or a you're not limited to your area, but you have access to the entire country.
Got it. So what I'm hearing there is, there again, that convergence of many variables, whether it's, having a proper representation from a digital platform perspective, be that website or more so mobile phone, like that's like number one. So you've got to have that presence. You got to be able to have that distribution of your app. You have to be able to have that user activity on the app. Like it has to become part of a normal part of daily life. And
Yes.
then not only that, but like making sure you have that piece right on the front end, getting the platform right and the representation for the consumer, but then also marrying that with whatever technology you're using to manage those orders, to service those orders, to deliver those orders, and then ultimately to, like you said, be able to verify the fact that from the click to the delivery, like things are happening. And this all feels like not necessarily new, but it feels like it's emerging and accelerating quickly from a usage perspective. Are you finding that a lot of brands in the region are trying to figure out all these different things at the same time in a race to get that done?
Yep, I think we can attribute that to ease and convenience of the users. So even Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok now is um, probably getting onto the bandwagon, because live selling is also big here
Mm.
in Southeast Asia. So uh, they sell through online. So if you have access to those consumers, then you can easily get a sale uh, during those hours that they spend on the phone. I think Filipinos spend 4 hours utilizing their mobile devices on shopping alone.
Wow. So it's really important to understand those usage behaviors when they're using the phone, why they're using the phone, how you can make sure that your offer is in front of them more so than competitors. I think, and like with anything today in e-commerce, that's all about data and how you utilize data and how you incorporate those insights into your operations and your logistics. I mean, that just has to be a big part of what you're doing.
Yep, I think the power of data help us a lot. Number one is the forecast. It's very important. Is how many sales that we will be expecting. The second, if we get that forecast, we will have to plan our move on
Mm.
the operation side. Whether planning for first mile, how many riders do we need, how many trucks do we need. The same with the batching and algorithm. We have to operate efficiently. We have to put density on the routing plans, and we have to ensure we utilize the right fleet to be able to maximize our trips going to the final destination and going back as well, including the last mile. We will be able to notify them before the delivery happens, or even just when sorting alone, we can even notify them just to be ensure that we get a successful delivery. I think the key here is we have to get it delivered on the first attempt, so that we don't spend another cent on redelivery.
You know, and that's the name of the game, isn't it, when it comes to last mile? Get it right the first time, because if
Yep.
you don't, you might lose that customer for a lifetime.
Correct.
Gerard, look, I find what's going on in the region very fascinating. We're definitely going to check back with you on this in a few months to find out how things are progressing for you. But what really stands out for me is changing consumer behaviors, the role that data plays in creating efficiency and cost savings, and then ultimately how technology is propelling and can continue to propel the more efficient deliveries, more effective deliveries on the back of a greater e-commerce play. Really exciting stuff that's happening in your part of the world. Thanks for joining us today and talking about it. Really appreciate that.
Thank you, Judd, and good evening from the Philippines.
Good night. More to come from Southeast Asia, more to come from the Philippines in the future. What's happening there is exciting right now. Certainly, from a from a business perspective, if you're a retailer, if e-commerce is your thing, growth, right? And that's today's last word on last mile today is growth. Any business right now, considering the state of the global economy, is looking for ways to maintain their growth rate, to accelerate their growth rate, and looking into emerging markets is one way to do that. And what I love about the discussion today is really kind of what I ended on with Gerard, is this idea of a number of very important variables converging at the same time. Right? The access to technology, their use of technology in a specific region, how that can change consumer behaviors, and that what that does to a retailer or a seller, the impact that it has on their business to evolve with the consumer, evolve with the market from a technology perspective, use data to create efficiencies. We talked about cost being really important. We talked about time being really important. We talked about reliability being really important. All of that can be driven through a better understanding of the consumer, a better understanding of data, and then using tech to make sure that you're connecting the two. Really fascinating. We will definitely follow up with Gerard. Okay, that's it for today's edition of Special Delivery. Join us again in November. I think we're pulling our episode forward by a week or so because of Thanksgiving here in the US. Nonetheless, we're going to see you in November. We're going to bring on another great guest. I'm sure you're going to love it. Thanks for being here today. I'm Judd from Far Eye.